Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the Workplace of the Future, finding, attracting, and retaining your people in their dream job. We are thrilled today to be with you. I'm Kelly Kolar, President and founder of the Kolar Experience Institute and Kolar Design. We have a great audience today and we have an awesome lineup, so I'm looking forward to sharing the learnings with everyone. Next slide, please. Yes, as you've mentioned that the Kolar Experience Institute, we've been doing, I think this is our 6th webinar now today. So thank you so much to all of you that have been participating in the past. The Institute actually is focused on workplace of the future as one of our key sectors. And we built the Research and Insight Institute to explore the intersection of people, process, and place to create that positive impact for business. And as you know, each one of the different webinars has focused on the different aspects of business and how do we create stronger businesses overall. Today, we're going to be focusing on the people, and I've got an amazing lineup of speakers to talk to you about people for retention and attraction, as well as helping people, your people, keep and find their dream job. Next slide. Just quickly here, just some stats from the Institute. We know right now that 75% of the US workforce will be millennials by 2025, as the boomers are beginning to retire, even though some of them didn't retire quite as fast with the pandemic, being worried about their retirements. We know that 75% by 2025 will be millennials. So is your company ready for the shift to help people find, retain, and attract their dream job? Next slide. 72% of employers have a hard time finding skilled candidates, especially in some of the entry-level positions. So we're seeing right now already the talent pinch. And I was listening to the Ballou brothers, and they said we are going to increasingly now, as the economy comes back online and COVID-19 reopens, with everyone having heard safety, that we're going to continue to see a big pinch in the talent area. So are you ready in your business to manage forward and to think about the future? 50% of the increase in the number of mobile employees is in 2020 alone. So already, whether you were in whatever sector you were in, already 50% of the numbers are increasing in mobile employees. And we know that 89% don't think work will ever return to normal in that way. So mobile employment and how you build your campus of the future and your workplace of the future to retain and attract those employees is going to become critical as we move ahead. So just some quick stats and opportunities for you to think about. We also have some tools here that we're going to be sharing with you, our gifts. We have the Kolar Experience Institute white paper on Workplace of the Future, how you need to create the new hybrid model and how you need to be able to think about the new future of that mobile workforce. We also have a free 30-minute consultation with Serge Berlantz. And we also have a self-care inventory quiz. Talent Magnet Institute has put together with us a self-care inventory quiz, and Strategic HR, our leader, Robin Throckmorton, was with us today. She's also doing an ebook. And then, of course, Julie Bauke also has an ebook as well. So stop peeing on your shoes so you know what to do. Those will be the gifts that we'll send back out to you digitally following the webinar, as well as this recording. So thank you so much for attending. And this is our give back to you so that we can all continue to help create positive impacts for our employees and our people. Let's talk now about the lineup. As I mentioned, I'm Kelly Kolar, President and founder of Kolar Design, as well as the Kolar Experience Institute. I have an amazing partnership here today that we've brought. We've got Mike Sipple. He's co-founder and CEO of the Talent Magnet Institute. So our two institutes are working together, and we're going to be sending out a survey as well as an opportunity for you to think about where your employees are and their measurement. And I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves. But KEI and TMI are partnering together now to continue our data collection on the impact of COVID-19 and now the future of work. Also, I have with me Robin Throckmorton, founder and president of Strategic HR. Robin is another female CEO. So of course, I've got the women CEOs on the panel today. Super excited to have her here to talk about, and we actually work with Strategic HR in our company as well, all the needs that you have of retaining and attracting and keeping your employees happy, especially in this new mobile environment. And last but definitely not least, Julie Bauke, president and chief career strategist of the Bauke Group. So think about, how do you continue in your life and finding your dream job? She works with individuals to coach them to success. especially if they're thinking about a transition in their life, or they're actually just starting out, because we've had a lot of students on our webinar in the past. And so some people are just beginning their career. So no matter where you are, Julie will be able to help guide you throughout that process. So let's go ahead right now and get started. We've got an awesome conversation. Mike, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So as Kelly, thank you so much. And the Colar Experience Institute, thank you for bringing us all together. To all of you attending, so glad you're here. We even have one individual that, let's see here, Nazim, who it's 11 p.m. Where Nazim is. So thank you for spending this last hour of the day with us. I'm Mike Sipple, co-founder and CEO of the Talent Magnet Institute, where we're investing in you to be great people leaders and helping you invest in your teams to do the same. So thankful to be a part of today's panel.
Thanks, Mike. Robin?
Thanks, Kelly, Mike. It's my pleasure to be here today too. I think this issue of attracting and retaining talent is very paramount to all of us. It's kind of the basis of what we built Strategic HR on, is to really help businesses have those tools, strategies, and resources to attract and retain a competitive, talented workforce. So I'll be able to share some of the tools and strategies we use, but also looking forward to learning from the panel as well. But thank you for having me today, Kelly.
And Julie.
Good morning. I'm Julie Bauke, as Kelly said, and my life's work has been around jobs and careers. Why people take certain jobs, why they stay in jobs they hate, and when and how it's time to go. We work with people who are at all stages of their lives and careers to help them figure out what their next best stage ought to look like. And we are in the sweet spot right now in the pandemic, where people have incredible opportunity to do more of what they want or be what they always wanted to be and maybe never thought they could. So it's an exciting time for individuals as they look to their next best career, an exciting time for leaders as they look to lead their people toward that place as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Julie. So Julie, let's talk a little bit. I wanted to start the discussion out with you today because of, the dream job, right? We all are thinking, I need to find my dream job. So how do you actually help people begin to think this way?
Well, go ahead and go to the next slide if you wouldn't mind. We've all seen this stat probably multiple times. The Gallup Institute is legendary for doing their how do people feel about their jobs? And what is interesting is in all the years they've been doing this, the number hasn't changed. About 70% of us are engaged, disengaged, or completely disengaged at work. And that number hasn't changed. That's what's so sad about it. So when we look at why that is, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the first things we want to think about, and go ahead to the next slide, is those of us who are more on the boomer side of life, shall we say, we were brought up, we graduated from college, our parents taught us, grab a job and hang on as long as you can. And if you're not happy, it's work. Are you really supposed to be happy? Suck it up and get back to work. And that created all kinds of problems, because I believe the ripple effect of that thinking is far and wide. I don't think your health isn't going to be optimal. Your relationships aren't going to be optimal if 40 plus hours a week, your whole strategy is suck it up and get through it. So then along come the millennials, and they saw their parents be laid off. They saw that company loyalty isn't even a thing. And they're thinking, I'm not going to do it that way. If I'm not getting what I want and need, I'm out of here. What's interesting in our practice is how many boomers have come around to that way of thinking and are exactly saying the same thing. But, we scoff at these millennials. We look at them and say, you want to be happy at work? You haven't suffered enough. So that's what we say, you're paying your dues. But really, we all deserve to be engaged and happy at work. The problem is no one taught us how to do it. So what happens is, with the proliferation of LinkedIn, it is everywhere. When you are on LinkedIn, you are immediately in a job search because you can be found. Once you can be found, you are technically on the market. And so anybody with an up-to-date LinkedIn profile Now add into that, if you're in a field that there's a shortage in, your advantage, the advantage goes to the job seeker. Now in a recession, we see the pendulum swing the other way. In 2008, it certainly did. But now we're in a place where, even though COVID has kind of covered that up a little bit, we're in a place where our very best people are at risk. What was that stat Kelly shared? 72% of managers are having a hard time finding good people.
Yep.
So guess what they're going to do? They're going to find your people, and they're going to find them on LinkedIn and pick them off. And so if you aren't creating or providing the type of environment that encourages career exploration and moving people around and having the right career conversations, your people are going to take on that millennial attitude of, I'm out of here. And from where I sit, even as a boomer, I say bully for you. You should be doing those sort of things. And so we've got just all this stuff brewing that if you're a leader of people, are going to make life very challenging for you to find and keep the best people. You can go ahead and change slides. So, as a leader, you have to wear two hats. If you think about the cliche of the airline on your flights, where the flight attendant says, put your mask on first, it's a great analogy for this. And so as a leader, you have to get clear on where you're going in your career. And once you feel like you are headed down a path that feels right for you at the stage you are in your life, then it's easier for you to have those same conversations and to want that for your people. And so I encourage you to listen to this from two perspectives. From your own perspective, like what do you want? And then from the perspective of how can I help my people get what they want? So, boomers think in terms of we got to do it for 40 years. I encourage you to think in terms of stages. And so we can go to the next slide. In my 25 plus years of doing this is one of the things that I've learned that really helps you frame up what you're trying to do. So when you put on your where's my career going hat, I encourage you to think this way. And then I encourage you to have conversations with your people around this as well. So career happiness is doing what you like, and if you're lucky, you love it. Doing what you're good at, and maybe great at, what you can get paid for or what the market needs, in a place in a way you can be successful. So that is the definition of career happiness. Now the challenge here is that changes. So what I liked 10 years ago is certainly not what I would like today, nor what I will like in 10 years, most likely. So because we evolve in our careers, in our lives, doesn't it make sense that our careers evolve along with us? Because our values and priorities change. We get burnt out, we get tired of things, we discover new interests. That's life. So why don't we apply that same thinking to our careers? So I encourage you, as every person on this call, to think about this for yourself. And the ebook that I'm giving you will walk you through how to do a job search if you decide now's the right time. Now let's switch that conversation to your people. You can use this model with your people. And in my experience, one of the things that happens is we're afraid to ask our people how they like their jobs, how satisfied they are. And Robin and Mike are going to talk more about how you can get deeper into this. But in my experience, people want to be asked. They want to know that you care about their careers. And yes, you can impact that. So what if, it's super simple. What if you made, as a part of your conversations with your people, even like just a casual conversation, or when you're reviewing goals and achievements, whether it's quarterly or annually, you ask them a couple simple questions. What would you like to do more of in your job? What would you like to do less of? What do you see as your next step? Let's look at your gaps. How can I help you get there? And wouldn't you rather have somebody who, if they know what they want in their career, they are prepared to go get it? If it's not at your place, then someplace else? Because then that's one less disengaged person on your team. We fear sometimes having those conversations because we believe sometimes that if we ask the question and get an answer, we're obligated to act on it. But really, isn't it nice just to have your leader care about where you're going in your career? And you might find that when they tell you what they want more of and less of, you're actually in a position to help them get it. But as nominees for Academy Awards always say, it's just nice to be nominated. I always say it's just nice to be asked. We work with people in a lot of cases who are still employed, and they might be working for you, but they've looked around and said, they don't care about me here. They don't care where I'm going. They don't want to know what I know more of. So I'm going to have to leave. Half of our people that we work with as clients are employed, but they've looked around and said, I can't get what I want here, so I'm going to have to get it elsewhere. And that's where that talent suck comes from, the vacuum. People looking around and saying, I can't get what I want here. And so even using this as a model or as a framework for conversations with your people, saying, you know, what do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? If I had a magic wand and could take things off your plate, what would that be? But again, I want to circle back to end. This also matters to you. Well, how does this apply to you and where you are? Do you see yourself in the same place or not? So lots to think about, and I'll hand it back over to our friends at Kohler.
Thanks so much. You know, Julie, what I love about the thing that you kind of pivoted to is, you know, we know that the millennials, since they're going to be the majority of the workforce in 2025, I mean, remember, that's only just a few short years away. You know, they are digital natives. They grew up on a tech-savvy platform. So the technology and the use of technology for them to find the career and the passion and the joy that they really, really want is going to become a big enabler for everyone on this call. That's the same for the companies as well. So what's good for the goose is also good for the gander in that regard, right?
Yes,
so how do we leverage, you know, talent? How do we leverage technology, tools, training, technology to make our companies the best we can be? So Robin Throckmorton is going to help us talk about right now leveraging expertise in her company and what she does. And I can tell you for sure, our company is hugely benefiting from strategic HR to attract, retain great talent internally, as well as attracting new talent to our team, since we, of course, have lots of job postings out there. So Robin, tell us about that and the tech-savvy world, and what are the kind of things that you're seeing right now as benefits for us?
Thanks, Kelly. And I love the things that Julie shared with you. So I'm going to be hitting on some of those too and share with you how you can connect them together with what I have.
Great.
But, you know, in light of the spring, I have to say, you know, recruitment and retention is kind of like the chicken and the egg. I could probably argue for you which one comes first. And then I could argue the other way. But what I'm going to say is it's both. But I'm going to start with retention, primarily because we've been through so much in the last year with COVID. It's time to start by re-recruiting our employees as we create that new normal workforce for them. It's going to be really important that we make sure our current employees are happy in their jobs, happy with what the new normal is, and really satisfied, because we don't need to have that turnover that Julie's mentioning. So I'm going to focus on retention. And I probably could spend an entire day talking to you about retention strategies. So I'm going to keep it very, very focused. And you'll probably see a theme emerging that I'm curious to hear if you do. So my first strategy I want to share with you, if you're not already doing it, is a tool I highly recommend, which is the Employee Net Promoter Score. It's a simple question you ask your employees, you know, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely is it you would recommend this company as a place to work? And again, they respond on a scale of 0 to 10 and give you a Net Promoter Score, or where are your employees today? I was in a CEO roundtable discussion. We were talking about this, and many of the CEOs said they were doing this weekly. This was a weekly touch base, especially during COVID, just to really regularly make sure there's not something brewing, something going on. At the most, quarterly. So if you think of your business and asking your employees this question once a week, once a month, no more than quarterly, you're going to have a good idea of what's going on in the workplace as you see things shift and change. And it'll let you know what is happening and I need to do something, which leads me to my second tool that I'd highly recommend, and that's an employee pulse. We've been through a lot these past 12 months, and in order to stay on top of where employees are going as they've navigated through this, it's really important to get a pulse from them of what's happening. You can do this in a full employee survey. We have a number of clients doing that on purpose right now as we're midst of COVID, leaning back to going back to the workplace. I wouldn't encourage doing it more than once a year. You got to do it, look at the results, make change, and give time for change to take place. but it does give you a good way to check it. This also could come from more of a pulse or short question and answer with your employees. So Julie mentioned the what's important in your career questions to have with your employees. And I'm going to build on that and say, find out for them, what do they like most about working here? Or maybe what would be a few things they'd like to see change? Even simple things like, what makes you get up and come to work here every day? These are really basic questions you can ask. And the theme you're probably seeing emerging is, one, asking your employees. Don't assume that what the employees are thinking or feeling. You've got to ask them. And two, another tool that you should be considering, if not, is your manager should be doing one-on-ones with their employees. Frequency is going to vary by how many reports they have, but it's really important to have those touch bases with employees. There's numerous tools out there that you can use to automate this pulse process. One of my favorites is Tiny Pulse. It does an excellent job of doing it for you, and their articles are amazing. Internally, our payroll system, Paylocity, has a survey tool with some built-in surveys in it, or you can create your own. So that's the one I use internally with my team. And a few others that we've seen are Office 5 and Lattice. And I think Mike has used a few of those and some others that he'll share with you as well. I think for me, the key is talking to your employees, finding out what they're doing, what they'd like to see done different, and taking action. Because that information is huge to helping you re-recruit and retain them. The feedback you're going to get from them, believe it or not, then circles back to recruitment and becomes your employment brand when you go out and communicate. So I'm going to give you one huge tip on that recruitment side, which is your career page. Your career page is your number one way to hire employees. It gives you a chance to showcase who you are, what you have to offer the candidates, and why they should want to work for you. Many organizations, believe it or not, don't even have a career page. I don't want you to leave this call, but when we're done, your homework is to find the career page on your website. Is it there? How hard is it to find it? And does it have some of these things I'm going to share with you? It's free advertising space. You don't have to pay for that job posting. Google's scraping things. Candidates will see things out there and they're going to come to your page and check you out way before they apply for a job. And you want to make sure what they're seeing is things that are going to help market you. So on this slide, I've snatched some things from fun, exciting components in the payroll industry of what they've done on their career pages. So these are from ADP, Paycor, Paylocity, Bamboo HR, some of the fun things they do on their websites on their career page. So the first one I'll echo to you is that employment brand. You just found it out when you talked to your employees and did the pulse, and you know what they love about working there. Now's the time to shine that on your website, whether that be in pictures, videos, testimonials, any information that helps you show what your brand is for coming to work for you. The second piece you should have are the perks and benefits that you offer. What are those intriguing and interesting things that your employees love that your target candidates are going to be excited to know that you offer to them as well? A mission and vision statement. We're talking about the millennials being 75% of the workforce here in just 4 years. They're already 50% of the workplace. They want to know what your mission and vision is. They want to know that their values align with your values. So you need to have that on your website, making sure they understand what you stand for, to know that they're going to be a long-term fit for you. I mentioned testimonials, and I'll say it again because it can go a very long way for you. A video of an employee saying, I started out as a general laborer and now I'm a manager. Think of the impact someone's going to see when they apply for that job and they see a live testimonial from an employee on a video, on words that they're using, pictures you're using. Those are the things that are really going to help them understand the day-to-day job and what you do. Company culture. You've got a culture that you built. You are a great place to work. How do you let them know things that you do internally as a team, maybe things you do externally with the community? Your career page is the best place to share that. And then finally, but not at all the least, is your hiring process. Some people have a very cumbersome process. You need to be aware of that as you're going through recruiting right now. But if you set expectations up front of what your process may look like, it helps set the stage for the candidate. And then most important, making it very easy for them to apply. There needs to be a one button everywhere that says, apply now, and make it as easy as you can possibly make it. I had one of my millennial employees was talking to a client and said, we're in the age when our identity is getting stolen right and left. So if you're going to ask for my information when you're just now not even courting me yet, not even on a date yet, you need to limit how much you're asking. And the funny thing is that person was asking for 14 pieces of information. Think about that. Your first name, your last name, your phone number, your email. You can hit some of those pieces of information pretty fast, and they want to get to know you before they give you way too much. So that's not unusual. Also, as you go hunt for your career page, remember about 50% of the people drop off every time they have to click. So don't make it hard to get to your career page, or you're liable to lose those candidates before they even get to seeing who you are and what you do. So we've talked about re-recruiting them. We've talked about how to attract them with that best source. But once you've hired them, you're not done. You now got to talk about how you're going to onboard this employee and get them in the door with you. So I want to kind of walk you through some really key components on onboarding that will really help you understand what you might be able to do in that process to improve that turnover you might be seeing in that first 30, 90 days, even 6 months. There's a great article out there. Bill Cushard wrote, "These employee turnover stats should scare you to death." I'm not going to give you any of the scary ones. He did say employees that went through a very structured onboarding program were 58% more likely to be with the organization in 3 years. Wouldn't we all love to retain our employees for 3 years or more? And it does start with the onboarding. The preparation, I know we all have good intentions that the employee is going to walk in and have a computer and have a phone and have everything waiting for them, but a lot of times they don't. It is so important. I know a candidate I talked to during COVID that went in for their first day. All they were doing was getting the computer because everybody was remote, but the computer wasn't ready. So they had to drive back home and come back 2 days later to pick up their computer. Be ready for them, be prepared for them so they don't have to go through that. Another key tip is an onboarding plan. And this, I'm not necessarily talking about the agenda. You should have a really good agenda planned out of what that employee is going to do as they come on board. The plan is, why did you hire them? Let them know what's awesome about them that you're bringing them on to do, and also let them know what it is that you want to work with them to continue to grow and develop. And set expectations. What are resources and tools available to them? What do you expect them to do in the first few weeks? What are some expectations at 30 days, 90 days? Make sure it's really clear in that upfront step so that they have a good idea of what they need to be doing and working toward. It's just very, very important. The second thing is making sure you're getting them introduced to the team and the managers. That same employee that I mentioned never met any of their coworkers or their boss in person, even on a video, for 3 months. 3 months, they never saw the human side of the business. Make sure your employees, whether remote or in person, are involved in onboarding that employee, even if it's just a simple lunch or 5-minute meetings with each of them. Make sure you're clear with who the company is. Make sure they understand who they're working for. And then, of course, the HR side, you got to go through the policies and procedures. Another piece, obviously, you're going to hit benefits. This is the day where you got to get the paperwork and the benefits, but a lot of these new payroll systems have onboarding programs. And you can knock out a lot of this right online and not have to spend that one-on-one time going through benefits and paperwork as much as possible, so it can save you time. Ensure you've given them a clear job description and set expectations with the employee. That way they know right away, what am I expected to do? I mean, I might have had, blinders on, excited with the interview process and all that, but now here I am in the job. What exactly are you expecting out of me? And it builds off that plan that we talked about. A mentor, formal or informal, is another great component that you need to have in the process. This mentor is going to be someone for simple things like, what does everybody do at lunch? How do you communicate here, to where do I find this file? Someone that can really work well with them and make that first 30, 60, 90, 6-month period a little bit more palatable and easy, so they're not going through a lot of pain that first few weeks of trying to fit in and feel like they know what they're doing. And finally, feedback. You can build this into your onboarding plan, have them come back to you in 30 days and 90 days and share what's working, what's not. Give them feedback about what's working and what needs to be improved. That way there's a conversation taking place well before they might say, I might leave here. I know this is a lot to do. You might be hiring one person or 300 people, but I promise you the investment you put into hiring them and the investment you're going to put into retaining them, this is so minor compared to that cost that you might incur. So I really, really would encourage you to look at your process. We've talked about it. I think you probably hear the rule of thumb out there. It costs you 50 to 150% of a salary to replace an employee. the last thing you want to do is that. So this is a cycle: recruiting, onboarding, retaining. You're going to continue to go through that. Don't know whether it's the chicken or egg, so I wouldn't stop in any place, but I'd encourage you to do the things you can do to make it right the first time, and that way you don't risk losing great talent. So a lot of information, short sound bites, but hopefully it gives you some strategies. Back to you, Kelly.
Wow, Robin, that is amazing. I want to just click back 2 slides. I've got just a quick question for you. You know, this career branding, right? And how we as companies and as CEOs, I mean, brand is everything, right? And culture eats brand for lunch. So if you are not thinking about your brand and your brand culture and how you touch your employee, just like we do with our customers, this is really showing me how many times I touch that employee and how critical it is within that 90-day period, especially before they're fully integrated and feeling really, really good, how critical it is that we actually do each one of these touches, right? Because at the end of the day, it comes back to your company's brand. Your people are your brand. So are you seeing if people have these kind of systems in place and they've really kind of optimized, and then of course they enroll all their team in it, right? Because it can't be just one person's job to do all. But if everybody's on the same page about focus forward, are you seeing results in helping with that recruitment and attachment?
It definitely is. And you're right. It starts with the candidate experience, goes into that onboarding experience, and then becomes the experience the employee has working with you. And it definitely is going to help. And you're going to find out pretty quickly if it's not working, because you're having communication and have a better chance to try to correct the situation if things aren't going the direction they had hoped for. So really, really important to make sure that you're paying attention to that through the whole entire process, that experience and touches the employees getting through their life with you.
It's awesome. I just think of how the challenges we, as a small organization, with 20 plus people, we already have a quarter of our workforce was already remote in different places around the world. We've got a team member in Bangkok, we got people in Detroit, we got people everywhere. And just how critical it is now in this new technology space as well, in this new remote paradigm, to continue to build all of those touches, right? Because you're not always physically together. So these are ways that you've given us some great strategies on how we can do that. So,
and they'll work remotely too, Kelly. You can do most everything there remotely.
That's fantastic. So we've got, one of the things about, Mike has just put into the chat, which I think is great. We know we've got this 5 generations. You and Julie both tapped on this. We've got from the maturest, still in the workforce, 5 generations in the workforce, to the boomers, all the way down, right, to the Zs coming in now, and then the next generation. So, are you seeing as well that with the different needs of each one of the different generations that, that these tools are effective no matter what age or what demographic you may have within your business? These tools are working universally, correct?
Absolutely. The most interesting thing over the years of doing work in generations is a generation will come in with the great idea, like Julie said, of if I don't like the job, why am I staying? The other generations kind of start saying, wow, what they're asking for, I should be asking for too. So everything you see a new generation rally cry for becomes something everybody starts rally crying for. So absolutely, it is things that are going to touch and help any one of the generations that we've talked about, and making sure you're talking to them engaged. I mean, the number one thing is that communicating with your employees. You will never get told you over communicate. So all of these are touches of communication that are going to help keep the employee engaged.
I think the thing too I loved about the brand side, since I'm in the brand world, we always brand space, right? We drive culture change management as a part of the redesign of the office of the future. But what I don't really think I had that fully integrated in my own thinking until really today, because the millennials are going to be that 75%. We know that they're digital natives. They grew up in the digital space. Right? They're a global generation. They want to work remote. They want to work globally. They want to, while the pandemic was on, half of them, went to the beach somewhere and worked from the beach. So we're seeing this kind of shift in how they think about what their needs are. And obviously, if you don't have the technology at the base of building your brand, you won't have it. So, love that you shared that insight. And I think it's going to be so cool to look at the tools and the strategies moving ahead. So Mike Sipple is here from Talent Magnet Institute. And one of the things I can tell you in our partnership, and since we are all three faculty of TMI, Robin, Julie, and myself, with each of us in our different specialty areas of what we can offer through the Talent Magnet Institute. Mike, I want to hear from you now, kind of summing it up, big pictures. What are you seeing out there of how do we build our businesses better? We've got this shift going on in the workplace. We've got the shift in the generations. We've got, obviously a lot of changes already happening with the workplace of the future and the new hybrid remote situation. So tell us about, what are your thoughts around the tools and the strategies that you're recommending to us? I mean, my thing right now is just one challenge we're having in our company is, the next generation of managers. So as we build and scale our business, I've got young managers that need management skills. How do I train and teach them? And they learn differently. It's not just learn by doing. So would love to hear from you about tools and strategies of how we can help our managers continue to build our businesses as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelly. Robin and Julie, thank you for all of your insights. I'm looking forward to tying some of this to what we're all here today, which is keep in mind that our goal is to help our people achieve their greatness, right? So, they're within your organization to help them achieve certain personal goals that they have. And I love the conversation that we have about dream job and, unpacking what you really want. And think about if you unpacked what Julie started with of helping your employees, as Robin referenced, asking them questions about what they want to achieve and how your organization can help them get there. So there's some research up in front of you. One comes from the report and the survey that the Kolar Experience Institute and Talent Magnet Institute, we started, I think, Kelly, last April, asking questions and, look at this number. So we actually watched this number climb over the last year, which shouldn't surprise many of us, but that now 87.5% of all of the people who have taken this survey from a variety of industries all over the world, with Kolar's reach being global, TMI's being heavy national, think about this number. So look around you right now and think, wow, are really almost 9 people out of the 10 experiencing this? And we might be one of them, right? But as we start getting down to making leadership personal, ultimately what the generations want, and I would argue that any generation starts somewhere and learns experience. And Robin, I love the fact that you mentioned, like, once one brings a new idea, everyone else is like, why haven't I been asking for that, right? Like, leadership is personal. We define corporate culture by the thousands and thousands of interactions your people have every day. I like to say, if you're not managing your brand, someone else is. We all can say we know our culture, but do we really? And again, it's the lived experiences. So leveraging this information, if there's one tool that's the most important tool, it's each and every one of us on this call being an ambassador for our people first. A lot of organizations turn to us and say, how do I get my people to be an ambassador for me? How do I get them to elevate my brand? How do I get them to share the good word? And, the response is, what are you doing for them? Are you showing up for them? Are you, I think it's a fortunate outcome of a very difficult circumstance that we've all been through, and all of the entrepreneurs on the call, all of the business owners, all of the executives. This last year has been incredibly difficult. Some of the, my 21 years, this has been the scariest experience. I started my career right at 9/11. So to have these two bookends at this point in my career, you recognize, like, life is precious and we should start living like it. We should start leading like it. Let's see here. Let's click over to the next slide. I do the final statistic on the previous page, though, is 94% of people that Zenefits, which is a large global benefits company, surveyed, 94% of people said if I felt more invested in my current organization, I would stay longer, right? So people don't leave jobs, they leave bad bosses. People also leave environments where they don't feel like they're experiencing change, challenge, and growth. That's what the Institute has found in our research. A key to employee development is helping people experience change, challenge, and growth. It's a key indicator. The more someone continues to grow, the reason why a lot of younger generations leave is they just don't feel challenged anymore, and they're hungry for challenge and change. They want to experience new things. These are some references around the power of employee engagement. We like to say, all of us on the call like to say, if companies would just take a percent of the cost in calculation of employee turnover and actually invest it back in their people proactively versus complaining about it reactively, it would change everything. And the organizations that do win, you can see some of the statistics here. There's lots of data on culture and employee engagement. I don't know personally why it's so hard to be proactive versus reactive and rear view looking. You know, you look at this data around for every $10,000 in sales, the data coming from Fast Company shows that organizations are spending $3,400 for every 10K on disengaged employees, lack of creativity, issues with quality, issues with lack of innovation, losing customers because of lack of responsiveness, employees leaving. So many of this calculation should be staggering. Our data also shows that most executives are willing to pay up to around $3,000 a person for employee development, maybe some as low as $1,000 a year, but just make the investment, just turn the corner around this.
Mike, on that investment side, I mean, right now there's so many free tools that are out there too for companies to use. You know, obviously you have to create time allocation for the employee to take advantage of that. But like, for example, you know, Miami University is offering a mini MBA to any Miami University alum right now.
Yeah.
It's an online course, gets them ready to go forward with an MBA. But what their takeaways are is huge.
Yeah.
So there's so many things. I've just looked up at Harvard has also got some free online courses for leadership and development.
That's right.
All of the academic institutions are also fostering and fueling new tools. So are you seeing in the technology space too, that that's another way that people can start to invest in their employees is through technology?
Yes, absolutely. And Robin referenced it earlier, and it was put in the chat on Office Vibe and Tiny Pulse and 15.5 and Lattice. A lot of these tools, there's another one called Humaxa. If you use Slack, there's one out of Los Angeles that we work with that basically is Max or Maxine shows up inside your Slack channel and just creates an employee engagement. The tool is free until you hit a certain scale of number. A lot of these tools, the cost is $4 a person. You know, Office Vibe and I believe Tiny Pulse and Humaxa cost $4 a person per month, but it's pennies compared to what you're losing on the effectiveness side.
Right, because you look at that cost of what it could cost you, that 150 to 200 to replace the employee after you've already invested in all the training and the development. So, all right.
And our, you know, the group that is here today with all of you, you know, we've got tools and resources. Again, a lot that's put out free, and also some that like, okay, I want to take a next step. You know, we've built an entire people leadership platform branded as becoming a talent magnet for a reason. I was on a phone call this morning with a group out of Montreal that referenced this. Like they have 54,000 people managers on their platform. And they too have shared, like there's a void of how we're investing in the middle of our organization, yet people leave bosses, not jobs. The majority of our people report to the middle management. Why aren't we investing more in there? So if we could go to the next slide.
I love that people leave jobs. You know, they're not job hoppers, they're boss shoppers.
That's right.
So interesting. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And as you're referencing here on holistic leadership, you know, think outside the box. disassemble old thoughts. I'm sure all of us have had to do that over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Set the example, be vulnerable first so your employees actually share with you what's going on in their lives, and listen. We pride ourselves in being great communicators, but I do think that we've unfortunately went so far of telling that we forgot that a big part of communication is listening. So ask for feedback, measure satisfaction, continuously engage people in inclusive and fair ways, and ensure that you're opening up to dialogue. The first time you do some of these things may be challenging, right? It may hurt a little, but ultimately leadership is a journey and you don't have to walk it alone, but you do have to take the first step.
Great.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Awesome. All right. So on the holistic leadership side, let's go to some questions that we've seen in our, in our little chat here. I love this one. Karen Demi has reinforced the listening is so important to feel like your team is listening to you. So we want to open up the chat now. We've got about 10 minutes to take on some of these questions. Let's go what David Flynn says. David says, far too many top managers and board members were raised to focus on the numbers, tactics, strategy, obviously, and the hard stuff of business, all the accountability things, right, that make a business go. As they climb, they create or allow distance between themselves and their employees. So that means there's like a natural barrier to get over. So, would love, love, love to hear, this is another area where millennials have taught the boomers and the reverse mentoring method, which I love, that focusing on people and culture will result in their business outperforming numbers over and over in the long term. So they will do that by maintaining exceptional talent. So this link between the boomers and the millennials, what are you seeing as far as, that reverse mentoring concept? I'm going to turn that into a question, and I'm going to throw it out to you, Mike, on the reverse mentoring. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I love it, David. Thank you so much for the comment and the question. I don't know why it's so hard. We all want to learn from each other, right? You can even use some of these tools to open up mentoring dialogue and just create connection, create connectivity. Don't make employees work to get to know people inside the organization. A key part of the onboarding that Robin so eloquently outlined for you is establishing this very early. And as I like to say, no strategy was ever achieved without people.
Yeah.
Right? So why do we worry more about the numbers and the operational side when it's all about the people that make the numbers and the operations execute with excellence?
I love that. At the intersection of people, process, and place, you cannot create a paradigm shift. You cannot pivot in your business. You cannot scale your business without great people. So the people are so critical to the success of that. So love, love, love that focus on that. How about anybody else? Any other questions from the audience? I know that I've got one question. I want to kind of dive back over to Robin.
Hey, Kelly, before you go there, let me give you another note on the mentor.
Yeah.
You talk about, I think Keith Crone had asked how, the best way to keep your millennials is getting them engaged. They are thirsty to learn. So they love that mentorship opportunity that's both ways, because they can learn from the baby boomer, not with, I told you so, or I paid my dues, but what can I learn from you and the experiences you've had so we don't repeat them. And then they feel value added if they're able to then turn and help the boomer with anything. It could be technology, but many boomers are more tech savvy than we sometimes give them credit for. But that relationship is huge in helping you retain the millennials and the boomers. And you're saving your intellectual capital before the boomers retire from you. So huge opportunity to take place. Sorry, I just want to make sure I shared that because I know it's something we've seen over and over in the research we've done.
Let's open that up to Julie too. I mean, Julie, you're coaching these millennials. And some of these, Generation Zs and Xs into the workforce. Tell us, what are you seeing around, what are you hearing from the people that are seeking their dream job?
They want flexibility, obviously. They want authenticity. They want to show up at work with their full selves. Those of us who are boomers, we grew up with leave it at home, leave it at the door. And they want to be, they want control over their lives. And, they go in and they are, as they're interviewing for these jobs, they're asking very different questions than we did. And they're, are you really going to let them bring their full selves to work? And as Robin said, continuing and growing. And they're very hyper aware if you're not. Like, they can sniff it out.
Yeah.
Even if you're saying our people are our most important resource, like we all love to say on our websites, they can sniff out authenticity like nothing else. And so when your brand and your culture don't align, they're going to see that. They're not going to believe what you tell them or what you put on the website. They're going to be looking for evidence of it throughout the entire recruiting process and the entire selection process. Then when they get there and get on board, they're looking for that continuity and consistency all the way through. And so I just want to echo, especially what Robin was saying in terms of taking a look at your entire process from the minute you go out and try to find people. Is there continuity, consistency, authenticity all the way through? Or, because if there isn't, they're the first ones, much more so than we were, to say, yeah, no, and move on to something else. And we're entering a world where they can do that. They don't have to stay. And so just keep that in mind. You're not, if you aren't doing all these things or aren't ready to start implementing all these things, you're going to turn away a lot of people before you even get a chance to have that first conversation with them, because they're going to be out there looking on your website, on LinkedIn. They're going to be we tell people, connect with people on LinkedIn who used to work at the place you're interviewing, because they're the ones who are going to be the most honest. And what those people say is going to trump whatever you put on your website every day.
I love that concept about, the brand and your career branding, and whether you're branding yourself and your own personal brand, seeking a great job, being really clear about what your objectives are and what you're really looking for, so that you can align your values with your business, the businesses that you're interviewing with. And then I also love on the employment, on the employer side, how we need to make sure our brand is authentic. Thank you, Julie. That is fantastic. So one other thing that, one of the chats that came in, I saw Mike answered it inside the Q&A from an anonymous attendee, said, I'm in an environment where management is always right and I'm always wrong. How do we deal with that? So Mike already answered that about influencing one step at a time and assuming that it's a non-toxic and non-abusive environment. How can you polish your story and your resume to get there? But I'd love to hear, from Mike, just to bring that to life. What are you saying? How do we help our young people find their voice?
Yeah. And it may, I just want to click on it. It may not just be a young individual. This could be anyone inside of an organization that has someone with a, call it quote unquote, a bigger title. I think one thing I always tell everyone when I'm asked this question, I've been saying the same thing for the last 15 years. If you're really in a toxic environment, reach out to the Bauke group and have them proactively help you.
Yeah.
They've been our partner for years. We've been working with Robin and Julie and their teams and Kelly for years because, this is the best of the best. The other part is, though, you don't have to leave a job to be happy, right? We are in control of our emotions and we don't always have to be a victim of our circumstance. But I think so often we're waiting for someone else to solve it, and we can solve it. Maybe you're there for a reason. Maybe leading well, influencing and challenging the way that others experience your environment. Like maybe that's actually the reason why you're there. Right? So do spend some time evaluating that conversation, but also, it's okay to be proactive for you and your team. So I'm not just, those that are leading people on your team, be proactive for your team and also always be proactive for yourself.
Yeah, great answers. All right, well, we've got about 3 more minutes, and I want to make sure that we go through some of the opportunities that we have. So I first want to open that up just to Julie and to Robin to also answer that question before I talk about our free gifts and we wrap it up for the day, because I want to make sure we end on time. Robin, Julie, do you have any suggestions for that person that's struggling within the culture, that they feel like they're always wrong, and how do they approach management?
One of the things that, one of the analogies I use is, you can, in my career happiness formula, the last one is in a place, in a way you can be successful, which gets to culture. You can be, the analogy I always use is, if you are feeling out of alignment with your culture, it doesn't mean that you're wrong and they're right.
Mm.
So the analogy I always use is, if you're a lemon and you're hanging on an orange tree, you're not going to thrive. You need to go find a lemon tree.
Yep.
So just because, you know, you're not thriving in your place, it doesn't mean you aren't good at what you do. It just might mean that you're great at what you do, but you're not doing it in the right place or the right way. And so I think sometimes we just want to blame ourselves. You know, I must be doing something wrong. But take a look at the career happiness formula, and also read my book that we're going to send you. It'll really help you get a feel for how you might pivot to become happier where you are. So don't blame it out. Don't take the blame. Just because a culture doesn't work for one person just because it works for 10 people doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
That's fantastic. So here we've got a great response to your answer from someone who I know well, who is a total rock star, Karen Demi, a breath of fresh air in her organization. She was originally told to just follow what the person before her did. But now she, of course, knew that it was a red flag, that she needed to find her way, because she's her own person. What she brings to the job every day is unique. So that's another great encouragement to people that might be struggling and not sure exactly where they're at or how to approach management or leadership in a culture like that. But, you know, you should be able to find a way to find your voice. And if you don't, and you are that orange on that lemon tree, or you're that lemon on that orange tree, find a way to pivot for yourself so you can find that career happiness. So great. So Julie, you talked a little bit about the books, about the free books. So I want to go ahead and go to the last slide now about our free gifts to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Of course, we have our consultation. Reach out to any one of us and the information that you might want to receive. We have the TMI Self-Care Inventory Quiz, so check in on yourself from Talent Magnet Institute. Feel free to reach out to Mike. He put his email in the chat, and Julie and Robin will as well. Of course, we have the Strategic HR, the ebook on what can you do. And then, of course, Julie's book that she talked about finding your career happiness and the best job. I want to thank all of you so much for coming. Talent Magnet Institute, especially, as being our key partner as faculty member. And remember that what's next from KEI is, of course, we have a new topic coming up for Q2. So we're wrapping up our quarter one on our Workplace of the Future. And next quarter, we're going to talk about the future of our cities, an economic roadmap to recovery, and some of the work and studies we've been doing in our own business districts here and helping our communities get back on track and helping all of our businesses grow. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Come again.